Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. This time we're going to be looking at Macrobolic Nutrition. So we're talking about excerpts from Macrobolic Nutrition, a book by Gerard, Dente, and Kevin J. Hopkins. And we're really going to be looking at the application for athletes and bodybuilders who are really serious about building muscle strength and controlling their body fat.
Yeah. It's one of the things that's really interesting about this approach is it really goes against a lot of the popular trends you see in diet these days.
Yeah.
It's really about the science behind how food fuels your body.
Okay.
And then using that knowledge to sculpt the physique you want.
Okay, so the authors lay out this core philosophy.
Yeah.
That not all calories are created equal.
Right.
And they emphasize this 4-5-3-5-20 ratio. So 45% of your daily calories from carbohydrates, 35% from protein, and 20% from fat. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, isn't low carb the way to go?
Right.
But this whole idea of macrobolic nutrition kind of flies in the face of that.
Yeah. They're definitely not on board with the low carb craze.
Okay, so help me understand this.
Yeah.
Why are carbohydrates so important?
Well, think about it this way. Your body needs energy to power through those intense workouts.
Yeah.
Carbs are like the premium fuel for that.
Right.
If you're not getting enough carbohydrates, your body might start breaking down protein for energy instead, which is a problem because protein is supposed to be used for building muscle, not fueling your workout.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But wouldn't all those carbs then get stored as fat?
Not necessarily. It's about understanding how your body uses or utilizes those carbohydrates.
Right.
We talk a lot about glycogen, which is how your body stores carbs for energy. If you're training hard, your muscles need that glycogen.
Okay.
And when your muscles have enough glycogen, they look fuller and more defined.
So instead of fearing carbs, like a lot of people do,
right,
you're saying we should actually be embracing them as a crucial part of building, a really powerful physique.
They're not just theorizing about this either. They actually reference a study by the U.S. Olympic Committee, and they found that when athletes cut their carb intake to below 42%, their performance actually suffered.
Okay, so that's pretty, convincing evidence that it's not just, something they came up with.
Yeah.
It's like scientifically backed.
Yeah.
And they even give an example of Chris Bennett, an NPC bodybuilder, who actually lost muscle mass when he was on a low-carb diet. But once he switched over to this macrobolic approach with those strategic carbs, he started to see significant improvement.
It really highlights just how important those carbs are, especially if you're serious about building muscle.
Yeah.
Now, another aspect they delve into is the role of insulin.
Okay, so insulin's got a kind of bad rap, especially when it comes to, the whole weight loss thing.
Yeah.
So how does this book address insulin?
Well, what's fascinating about insulin is that it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's anabolic, meaning it helps build muscle, but it's also hyperlipidemic, meaning it can promote fat storage.
So it's both good and bad, depending on, I guess, how you're managing it.
Exactly. The key takeaway here is that it's all about control.
Okay.
So the macrobolic approach isn't about eliminating insulin. It's about using this 4-5-3-5-20 ratio along with exercise to manage insulin levels and really maximize its muscle-building effects while minimizing fat storage.
So you're kind of using it like a tool to sculpt your physique.
Exactly.
That's a really interesting tip.
By doing that, effectively managing those insulin levels, you can also avoid some of the pitfalls of chronically high blood sugar and insulin resistance, which can really sabotage your progress.
Okay, so we talked about carbs.
Right.
We talked about insulin.
Okay.
What about protein?
Sure.
I mean, everybody knows protein's important for building muscle.
Yeah.
But how does macrobolic nutrition kind of...
Well, they really go in depth with protein, explaining how it's not just about muscle growth. It's crucial for hormone production and even neurotransmitter function.
So it's kind of like the foundation for a lot of stuff going on in your body.
Exactly. And they break down the different types of amino acids, those building blocks of protein. They talk about essential and non-essential amino acids, but they really focus on what they call the critical five.
Yep.
Glutamine, arginine, leucine, isoleucine, and valine. And they especially emphasize the importance of glutamine.
Okay, that's one that I've always heard a lot about, but I'm not always sure why it's so important.
Well, for starters, it's the most abundant amino acid in your muscles.
Okay.
But when you train hard, you deplete your glutamine stores pretty quickly.
Okay, so if you're not getting enough glutamine, it can actually be kind of holding back your muscle growth.
That's right. And not only that, but glutamine also helps counteract the effects of cortisol.
Yeah.
which is that stress hormone that can break down muscle tissue.
Ah, cortisol, the enemy of gains.
Exactly. And there's more. They also talk about how glutamine is a key player in immune function.
Now, why is immune function so important for an athlete?
Well, when you're pushing your body to the limit, you're more susceptible to getting sick. That intense training can actually weaken your immune system,
Yeah.
making you more vulnerable to things like colds and flus. And athletes are also more prone to free radical damage, which can damage cells and hinder recovery.
So glutamine is not just about muscle growth. It's about keeping your body healthy and resilient so you can keep training hard.
It's one way to put it. And there's even more to it. Remember that concept of cell volumization they talk about?
Yeah.
Well, glutamine plays a role in that too.
What is cell volumization?
It's basically the process of increasing the volume of your muscle cells.
Okay.
And the bigger your muscle cells are, the more nutrients they can absorb, which leads to, you guess it, bigger muscles.
So it's kind of like a muscle pump from the inside out.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And the best part is all of these benefits of glutamine are backed by scientific research. They even cite studies showing that glutamine can boost growth hormone levels,
Right.
which further enhances muscle growth.
So glutamine really is kind of a powerhouse amino acid.
It is.
So where do we get all this protein?
Well, they emphasize the importance of both whole food sources and supplement sources.
Okay. So as far as whole foods go, what are we talking about?
They're big advocates for lean red meat, chicken, turkey, fish, eggs, low-fat dairy.
Okay, so all the classic muscle-building foods.
Exactly.
But then supplements also can play a role.
That's right. But they're very specific about the types of protein sources they recommend.
Okay.
They introduce this concept called biological value, or BV.
BV? What's that?
It's basically a measure of how well your body can absorb and utilize the protein from a particular source.
Okay.
So some protein sources are more easily digested and absorbed than others, meaning your body can actually use more of that protein for building muscle.
So what are some of the top-rated protein sources then?
Well, they highlight a few key sources. First up is beef.
Okay.
It has a high BV, and it's also a great source of creatine and L-carnitine.
Yeah, I've heard of creatine. That's supposed to be really good for strength and muscle building.
That's right. And L-carnitine is really important for cardiovascular health,
Okay.
which is obviously crucial for athletes.
Yeah.
Then there's chicken.
Classic bodybuilding staple. Lean, versatile.
Exactly. And finally, there's eggs.
Okay.
Eggs are interesting because they have a BV of 100, which is equal to many protein powders.
I know.
They're also a good source of those omega-3 fatty acids we talked about earlier, as well as sulfur, which is important for hormone production.
So those are the top-rated whole food protein sources.
Yeah.
What about supplements?
Well, they talk about whey protein, which is kind of the classic supplement choice for a reason. It has a BV of 100, and it's absorbed quickly, making it ideal for post-workout recovery.
Yeah, I always have my whey protein shake after my workout.
Makes
Okay, but what about other protein supplements?
Well, they actually recommend a variety of protein sources. They also talk about soy protein, specifically a type called soy protein,
Okay.
which is a complete protein with a BV of 100.
Soy protein sometimes gets a bad rap, but it sounds like this soy protein is a pretty high quality.
Bruce. They highlight research showing that soy protein can help lower cholesterol and reduce oxidative stress.
So again, it's not just about building muscle. It's about
Exactly.
your overall health and well-being.
It is, and they really stress the importance of getting a blend of fast, medium, and slow-release protein sources throughout the day.
Okay, now why is that so important?
It's about keeping a steady stream of amino acids flowing to your muscles, so they can constantly be repairing and rebuilding.
That makes sense. So how do we achieve that then?
Well, that's where their protein blend Macrobolic comes into play.
Okay.
It's designed to provide a sustained release of amino acids throughout the day. They recommend using it strategically, first thing in the morning, post-workout, and before bed.
Okay, so we're talking about a strategic approach to protein intake,
You got it.
just like we talked about with carbs and insulin. It's all about timing and choosing the right sources for optimal results.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've covered carbs, we've covered protein. What about fat?
Well, that's another area where macrobolic nutrition may surprise you. They don't demonize fat, in fact. They emphasize the benefits of healthy fats, particularly unsaturated fats.
Hold on a minute. Didn't we learn back in the day that we're supposed to avoid fat as much as possible, especially if we're trying to build muscle and lose fat?
There's been a lot of misinformation surrounding fat. They actually differentiate between the different types of fat.
Okay.
They explain that saturated and trans fats can be detrimental, hindering muscle growth and cell function.
Okay, so not all fats are created equal.
That's right. Unsaturated fats are a different story.
So what's so great about unsaturated fats?
Well, they actually play a crucial role in hormone production. And as we discussed, hormones are key for muscle growth. They also have anti-inflammatory properties, which can aid in recovery from those tough workouts.
Okay, so help us recover faster and build more muscle.
Exactly. They even mention a study that found replacing saturated fats with monounsaturated fats can actually lead to body fat reduction.
And we can actually lose fat by eating the right kind of fat.
Exactly. It's all about making smart choices and understanding the science behind how these different nutrients impact your body.
It's fascinating how they kind of go against the grain of what we've been told.
They really challenge the status quo and encourage readers to really think critically about what they've been told about nutrition.
And they even give an example of
Yeah.
Steve Carrot, a strongman champion,
Yep.
who uses this to fuel his training.
He relies on it for muscle growth, strength, and recovery.
Yeah.
And given the demands of strongman competitions, that's a pretty strong endorsement.
So this is not just for, bodybuilders. This is for anybody who's really pushing their physical limits.
Absolutely. And it all comes down to understanding your individual needs and tailoring your approach accordingly.
Okay, so speaking of individual needs, how do we actually figure out how much of each of these macronutrients we need?
Well, the book provides specific formulas to help you calculate your macro needs based on your training intensity and goals.
Okay, so what kind of goals are we talking about here?
Well, they break it down into 3 categories: gaining muscle while gaining body fat, maintaining body fat while increasing muscle, or losing body fat while increasing muscle.
Well, they cover a pretty wide range.
They do. And they even include a story about an IFBB professional bodybuilder, Dave Hawk, who was able to gain muscle and lose fat even at the age of 40 using this approach.
So age doesn't have to be a barrier to achieving those.
Exactly. And Dave's story highlights another interesting point. He initially thought that he needed to cut carbs drastically to get leaner, but the macrobolic approach actually showed him that he could achieve his goals while still eating a significant amount of carbs.
So again, going against the grain of what we typically hear.
It just goes to show how important it is to understand the science and not just follow the latest fads.
So they have different formulas depending on your goals.
Right.
What factors go into these calculations?
Well, they consider your muscle growth variable, or MGV, which has different multipliers depending on your goals.
What is that?
It's essentially a factor that accounts for how much muscle you're capable of gaining based on your training experience and genetics.
So somebody who's new to training might have a lower MGV than somebody who's been lifting for years.
That's right.
Okay.
And they also take your lifestyle into account.
Okay.
So they have different categories for sedentary, moderate, active, and very active.
So if you have a more active job, you're going to need more calories.
Right. And of course, they factor in your exercise expenditure, which is based on the duration and intensity of your workouts.
Yeah, of course. The more intense your workout, the more you need to fuel that.
And they assure readers that the book provides easy-to-use tables to simplify those calculations. It's all laid out in Appendix A.
Okay, good. So we've talked about macronutrients, carbs, protein, and fat, and how macrobolic nutrition takes a unique approach to each one. But what about micronutrients? Those are important too, right?
Micronutrients, which include vitamins and minerals, play a crucial supporting role in overall health and athletic performance.
I always get a little confused about all the different vitamins and minerals and what they actually do.
Well, they break it down pretty clearly in the book. They talk about 2 types of vitamins.
Okay.
Water-soluble and fat-soluble.
Okay, what's the difference between those two?
Water-soluble vitamins like vitamin C and the B vitamins are not stored in the body to any great extent and need to be replenished regularly. Fat-soluble vitamins, on the other hand, like vitamins A, D, E, and K, are stored in the body's fatty tissues and liver.
So with the water-soluble vitamins, we need to make sure we're getting them pretty consistently through our diet.
Exactly. And they go through each of the essential vitamins explaining their key functions.
Okay, give me some examples.
Well, for example, thiamine, or vitamin B1 is crucial for energy production, which is obviously essential for athletes.
Yeah.
Then there's riboflavin, or vitamin B2, which is also involved in energy production,
Okay.
as well as maintaining healthy skin, eyes, and nerves.
I've heard of niacin. What does that do?
Niacin, or vitamin B3, is involved in the metabolism of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, basically helping your body convert food into energy.
So a lot of these B vitamins sound like they're all about energy production.
You got it. And then there are vitamins that play important roles in other bodily functions.
Okay.
For example, vitamin B6 is crucial for protein metabolism and the formation of red blood cells, which carry oxygen throughout the body.
And what about B12?
Vitamin B12 is essential for cell growth and development,
Yeah.
as well as the production of red blood cells.
Okay, what about folate?
Folate is actually crucial for everyone, not just pregnant women. It's essential for DNA synthesis and cell division, which are both vital processes for muscle growth and repair.
So folate is kind of like working behind the scenes to make sure our cells are functioning properly.
Exactly. And then there's pantothenic acid, which is involved in energy production and hormone synthesis, and biotin, which is important for the metabolism of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins.
So these B vitamins, we're seeing that they're involved in a wide range of essential processes.
Absolutely, in the body. And then, of course, there's vitamin C.
Yeah.
Powerful antioxidant that helps protect your body from damage.
I know it's important for immune function.
Right.
But what else does it do?
It's also crucial for collagen formation, which keeps your skin, tendons, and ligaments healthy. It's also involved in carnitine production,
Okay.
which helps transport fatty acids into the mitochondria for energy production,
Okay.
and thyroid hormone synthesis, which regulates metabolism.
Vitamin C does a lot.
It does.
So we talked about the water-soluble vitamins. What about those fat-soluble ones?
Well, they're equally important. Vitamin A, for example, is essential for vision cell growth and immune function.
What about vitamin D?
Vitamin D is crucial for bone health and calcium absorption, which is especially important for athletes who are putting stress on their bones.
That makes sense. What about vitamin E?
Vitamin E is another powerful antioxidant, protecting cells from damage caused by free radicals.
And finally, vitamin K.
Vitamin K is essential for blood clotting, so it helps ensure that you heal properly if you get injured.
It sounds like we need to make sure that we're getting a good balance of both the water and fat-soluble vitamins.
They all work together to support overall health and athletic performance.
Okay, so we talked about vitamins. What about minerals?
Well, they cover minerals as well. Minerals are just as important as vitamins for optimal health and performance.
There are so many minerals. I mean, where do we even begin?
Well, they start with the macrominerals, which are needed in larger amounts.
Okay.
Sodium chloride and potassium are key for fluid balance. And nerve function.
Okay.
Magnesium, phosphorus, and calcium are essential for bone health, muscle function, and energy production.
So these are really involved in a lot of those basic functions that keep our body
Exactly.
moving smoothly.
And then they touch on the trace minerals, which are needed in smaller amounts but are still essential.
Okay.
Iron, for example, is crucial for oxygen transport, delivering oxygen to the working muscles.
And what about zinc?
Zinc is a key player in immune function, which, as we discussed, is especially important for athletes.
Right. So these minerals, just like the vitamins, are vital for our bodies to help us perform at our best.
And the key takeaway here is that it's important to obtain these micronutrients through a balanced diet, rather than relying on excessive supplementation.
So food first, supplements second.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And they dedicate a whole section to the topic of supplements, which we can dive into next.
Perfect. I'm excited to learn more about that.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so we've laid some of the groundwork here with those, core principles of macrobolic nutrition.
Right.
But I'm really curious to hear more about how they approach supplements.
Mm-hmm.
Do they advocate for using supplements to enhance those results?
They definitely see supplements as a valuable tool, but they emphasize that they should be used strategically to complement a solid nutritional foundation, not as a replacement for whole foods.
So it's about enhancing
Exactly.
those effects of the macrobolic nutrition, not relying on supplements as like a magic bullet.
Right, and they go into detail on a variety of supplements,
Okay.
each chosen for specific benefits.
Okay, so let's start with creatine. I know it's a pretty popular supplement,
Mm-hmm.
especially among athletes and bodybuilders.
Right.
What's their take on creatine?
They're big proponents of creatine. Research continues to show that it's effective in increasing muscle size, strength, and power. And they actually talk about some exciting advancements in sports nutrition technology that have led to more efficient ways to utilize creatine.
What kind of advancements?
Well, one of the breakthroughs they discuss is maximizing creatine's effects with what they call creatine cofactors.
Creatine cofactors. What are those?
Essentially, they're substances that enhance creatine's absorption and utilization in the body.
Okay.
So think of it as boosting creatine's effectiveness.
So instead of just taking a basic creatine supplement,
Right.
you're kind of getting more bang for your buck by
Yeah.
adding these cofactors.
And that led to MHP developing their time-released technology, or TRT.
TRT, okay.
And they use a process called microencapsulation, which basically involves coating tiny creatine particles with a protective layer. And this protective layer allows for a timed release of the creatine. So instead of being absorbed all at once, it's absorbed gradually.
So it's like a time-release capsule
Exactly.
for your muscle.
That's right. And with this technology, you only need 1 serving of creatine per day, as opposed to multiple servings with traditional creatine supplements.
Okay.
And this is what they use to create their product, TRAC, which stands for time-released arginine creatine.
TRAC. Okay, so that's where the arginine comes in.
Yes. And they were actually pioneers in advocating for arginine because of its role in nitric oxide production.
Okay, I've heard of nitric oxide. That's supposed to be good for blood flow, right?
That's right. It's a molecule that signals the blood vessels to relax and widen, which improves blood flow. And why is that important for athletes?
Okay.
Well, better blood flow means more nutrients and oxygen are delivered to the muscles, leading to better performance and recovery.
So with Thoracin EC, you're combining creatine, which we know helps with muscle growth and strength,
Right.
with arginine,
Right.
which boosts blood flow.
They actually go as far as to say that nitric oxide can accelerate muscle velocity, increase power output, improve recovery, and even stimulate new muscle fiber production.
Wow, so this TRAC is definitely something to consider if you're serious about,
Absolutely.
maximizing your results.
Now, another supplement they talk about quite a bit is glutamine.
Okay, yeah, we touched on glutamine earlier,
Mhm.
but I'm guessing there's more to it when it comes to supplementation.
They dedicate a whole section to it, really hammering home its importance
Yeah.
for athletes who are serious about their training.
Okay, so they call it one of the most vital amino acids. Why is that?
Well, aside from its role in muscle growth, glutamine is also a key player in immune function.
Yeah, we talked about that.
They did.
How intense training can actually suppress your immune system,
Right.
making you more susceptible to getting sick, and glutamine helps to combat that.
Exactly. But they also dive into its role as a neurotransmitter and an energy source in the brain, emphasizing that it's not just about physical performance, but also cognitive function.
So it's like brain fuel too.
They point out that those intense training sessions can deplete glutamine levels, not just in the muscles, but also in the brain, potentially impacting both physical and mental performance.
That makes sense. So how do we address that depletion then?
Well, they advocate for supplementing with L-glutamine, highlighting its anti-catabolic effects, meaning it helps prevent the breakdown of muscle tissue.
So it's like a protective shield for your hard-earned muscle.
That's one way to think about it. And they get very specific about how to optimize glutamine absorption.
Okay, so what's the secret?
Well, they recommend a product called effervescent glutamine. Because of its superior absorption rate, they explain that the bicarbonate in the formula neutralizes stomach acid, allowing more glutamine to reach the intestines where it can be absorbed and utilized.
So you're not just throwing glutamine in there and hoping for the best.
Right.
You're
creating an environment where it can be absorbed effectively.
Okay.
And interestingly, they also mention that bicarbonate itself has been shown to enhance strength and power.
Bicarbonate, isn't that baking soda?
It is. So that baking soda in your pantry might actually have some performance-enhancing benefits.
That's pretty cool.
Okay.
So we talked about creatine, we talked about glutamine. What other supplements do they recommend?
Well, next up is testosterone boosters,
Okay.
which is a topic that always generates a lot of interest,
Yeah.
especially among athletes and bodybuilders.
Yeah, testosterone is a key hormone for muscle growth.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that people are, looking for ways to optimize their levels.
Right. They discuss 2 main approaches for increasing testosterone. First, there's the approach of providing the body with what they call testosterone-like substances,
Okay.
basically pro-hormones.
Pro-hormones. What are those?
They're basically precursors to hormones, so they're substances that the body can convert into hormones, in this case, testosterone.
Okay, so you're giving your body the building blocks to create more testosterone.
Exactly. And for this approach, they highlight their product TBOMB,
Okay.
which features 1-testosterone.
TB1MB with 1 testosterone. And what's so special about 1 testosterone?
Well, they claim it's 7 times more anabolic
Yeah.
than naturally produced testosterone.
Okay, anabolic meaning what?
Anabolic refers to the processes that build up tissues.
Okay.
In this case, muscle tissue. So something that's anabolic promotes muscle growth.
So 1 testosterone is like a supercharged
That's the idea.
version of testosterone.
That's the idea. And they also mention that 1 testosterone doesn't convert to estrogen in the body.
Now, why is that important?
Estrogen is the primary female sex hormone. And while men do have small amounts of estrogen, high levels can lead to undesirable effects, like water retention and fat gain.
So you're saying that this particular prohormone
Right.
is very targeted in its effects. It promotes muscle growth without those potential estrogenic side effects.
Exactly.
Right.
And to ensure its potency, they use a special enteric coating on the TB-OMB product.
Enteric coating, what is that?
It's basically a protective layer that prevents the prohormone from being broken down in the stomach. It allows it to pass through the stomach intact and be absorbed in the intestines.
Okay, so it's like a shield to protect the prohormone until it reaches the right place for absorption. Okay, so that's one approach to boosting testosterone.
Right.
Providing the body with these prohormones. What's the other approach they discuss?
The second approach focuses on optimizing the body's natural testosterone production and utilization.
So instead of introducing those external substances,
Right.
you're trying to make the most of the testosterone your body's already producing.
Exactly. And this is where they introduce TB-OMB2.
TB-OMB.
Yeah.
So TB-OMB had the prohormone.
Right.
TB-OMB2 is maximizing the
Natural production.
natural production.
Right.
Okay, what makes TB-OMB2 so effective?
Well, they realized that simply raising testosterone levels isn't always enough.
Okay.
You also need to address other hormonal responses that can impact muscle growth.
What do you mean?
Well, as we mentioned, high estrogen levels can be a problem for guys looking to build muscle.
Right.
But there are other factors to consider, like DHT and SHBG.
DHT and SHBG, I'm not familiar with those.
Well, DHT stands for dihydrotestosterone,
Yeah.
and it's a more potent form of testosterone. It's linked to things like male pattern baldness and prostate growth.
Okay.
So while you want some DHT too much can be a problem.
Yeah.
SHBG stands for sex hormone binding globulin, and it's a protein that binds to testosterone, making it unavailable for use by the body.
Ah, so you want to keep DHT in check.
Right.
And you want to minimize SHBG.
To maximize.
Maximize the free testosterone.
Exactly. And that's what TB-OMB2 is designed to do. They claim it's the first formula to increase testosterone production by stimulating luteinizing hormone, which is a hormone that signals the testes to produce testosterone, while simultaneously reducing DHT estrogen and SHBG.
So it's like a multi-pronged attack, optimizing those hormonal pathways.
Exactly.
And really get the maximum effect.
They really took a holistic approach to testosterone enhancement with this one. They even introduced this concept of second messengers, calling it a potential breakthrough in bodybuilding.
Okay, second messengers. I'm intrigued. What are those?
It's a bit technical, but essentially, second messengers are molecules that relay signals within cells. In this case, they're talking about using ingredients that amplify the signal at the androgen receptor, which is the receptor that testosterone binds to.
So you're boosting the signal strength so the cells are more responsive.
That's a great way to put it.
To testosterone.
They recommend taking TBMB7 twice daily, and they emphasize that you don't need to cycle this product.
Cycle meaning what?
Cycling refers to the practice of using a supplement for a certain period and then taking a break from it for a while. Some people believe that cycling helps prevent the body from becoming desensitized to the supplement and allows for better long-term results.
Okay, so with TBMB2, you're saying you can just take it consistently.
That's right.
You don't need to cycle on and off.
That's right. They really seem to stand behind this product.
Okay, it's fascinating how much science goes into formulating these supplements. You know, it's not just throwing ingredients together and hoping for the best. There's a real understanding of the body's hormonal systems at play here.
They really emphasize the research and development that goes into creating these products.
Okay, speaking of research and development, what about growth hormone?
Ah, yes.
I know that's a big one,
It's a hot topic.
especially in the fitness world.
It is. And they actually share their personal journey of exploring growth hormone's potential for both athletic performance and longevity.
So they experimented with growth hormone themselves.
Well, not exactly growth hormone itself. They talk about working with Dr. Giam Papa, who was conducting research on natural growth hormone stimulators
Okay.
for anti-aging purposes.
So they were looking for ways to naturally boost
Exactly.
the body's own production of growth hormone.
That's right. And it's really cool how they tie this into the concept of longevity, showing how those two fields, athletic performance and anti-aging, are increasingly intertwined.
So that holistic approach, again,
Exactly.
not just about building muscle, but
Yeah.
how to optimize your health and well-being. In the long term,
Exactly. And they even tried Dr. Giampapa's amino acid-based HGH stimulating formula themselves and claimed to have seen significant increases in both HGH and IGF-1 levels.
what is IGF-1?
IGF-1 stands for insulin-like growth factor 1, and it's a hormone that plays a key role in muscle growth and development. It's produced in response to growth hormone. So when growth hormone levels increase, so do IGF-1 levels.
Okay, so they saw increases in both growth hormone
They did.
and this muscle-building hormone, IGF-1, and what kind of results did they experience?
They claim to have seen noticeable improvements in muscle mass and body fat, and this experience actually led to the creation of their product, Secretagogue 1.
Secretagogue 1. Okay, so this is a supplement then that's designed to
That's right. They call it the top-selling HGH-releasing formula on the market.
stimulate the body's own production of growth hormone. Now, why is that so important?
Well, they explain that growth hormone production declines with age, which contributes to many of the signs of aging we experience, like decreased muscle mass, increased body fat, lower energy levels, slower recovery from exercise.
So you're essentially trying to slow down the aging process.
That's the idea. And they highlight research showing that certain amino acids, which they call GH secretagogues, can actually stimulate the body's own production of growth hormone.
What kind of research?
Well, I cite a landmark study where GH secretagogues were given to older men, and the results were pretty remarkable. They experienced increases in lean body mass, reductions in body fat, and even improvements in bone density.
Wow. So these are some significant benefits. It sounds like growth hormone is a lot more than just a
It is.
muscle-building hormone.
It plays a role in a wide range of bodily functions. They even discuss the broader benefits of HGH. Reduced body fat, increased muscle mass, higher energy levels, enhanced sexual performance, faster wound healing, stronger bones, even improved mood and cognition.
That's quite a list.
It is.
So it really goes beyond just building bigger muscles.
Right. And their product, Secretagogue 1,
Mhm.
is designed to tap into those benefits by naturally boosting your body's own production of growth hormone.
It's amazing how much we're learning about these hormones and how they play a role in optimizing our health. And
It really is a fascinating area of research. And as we continue to learn more, we'll discover even more ways to optimize those hormonal systems to achieve our goals.
okay, so speaking of optimizing, what about joint health?
Right.
It's something that's often overlooked, especially among young athletes. They feel invincible. But as we get older, joint health becomes more and more important.
They definitely emphasize the importance of addressing joint health, especially for athletes who are putting a lot of stress on their bodies.
So what do they recommend for supporting joint health?
Well, they've developed a joint support formula that features two key ingredients: isoxazolone, which is a potent COX2 inhibitor, and glucosamine sulfate.
Okay, break that down for me. What are COX2 inhibitors and glucosamine sulfate?
Well, COX2 inhibitors are substances that block the production of an enzyme called COX2, which is involved in inflammation.
Okay.
So by inhibiting COX2, you can reduce inflammation in the joints, which can help relieve pain and stiffness.
So isoxazolone is like a natural anti-inflammatory.
That's a good way to put it. They even highlight research showing isoxazone's effectiveness compared to other botanical COX2 inhibitors.
And what about glucosamine sulfate?
Well, glucosamine is a natural compound found in the body, and it's crucial for the formation and repair of cartilage,
Okay.
which is that cushioning tissue that protects the joints.
So it helps to rebuild that cartilage.
That breaks down over time.
That breaks down over time. And they explain why they chose glucosamine sulfate over other popular PANAs. Joint support ingredients like chondroitin sulfate and MSM. They believe glucosamine sulfate has the strongest research backing when it comes to joint health.
So again, emphasizing science-backed
Absolutely.
ingredients here.
And they get really into the science behind how glucosamine works.
They explain that glucosamine is a key building block For glycosaminoglycans, or GAGs,
Gags.
which are long chains of sugar molecules that are essential for connective tissue synthesis.
Okay, so you're providing the raw materials then that your body needs to rebuild.
That's a great way to think about it. They even mention that glucosamine
That cartilage.
can help reverse degenerative osteoarthritis, which is a common joint condition that causes pain and stiffness.
So their joint support formula is not just about masking pain.
Right.
It's about actually addressing the underlying cause.
They're taking a proactive approach to joint health.
Okay, so we covered supplements for muscle growth,
Right.
testosterone optimization, joint support. What else do they recommend?
Well, they also mention meal replacement products.
Okay.
Specifically, their product, Up Your Mass S, describing it as a major advancement in lean muscle-building science.
Meal replacement products. I've seen those at the store. They're basically like protein shakes, right?
They can be, but they're often more than just protein. Up Your Mass S, for example, is designed to provide a complete meal in a convenient shake form.
So it's a quick and easy way to get a balanced meal.
Exactly.
Especially when you're on the go.
They explain that Up Your Mass S is specifically formulated to support macrobolic nutrition goals,
Okay.
providing a precise blend of macronutrients to fuel muscle growth and recovery.
So it kind of takes the guesswork out of meal planning
It does.
and makes sure that you're getting the right ratio of everything.
Right.
You know, carbs, protein, and fats.
They even have Up Your Mass S nutrition bars for those times when you need a quick and easy snack.
Okay, that's convenient.
Do they actually use these products themselves?
Yeah.
They mention incorporating them into their own diets,
Okay.
which suggests they believe in their effectiveness.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, when you're busy and on the go, it's good to have convenient options
Absolutely.
that still, align with your nutritional goals.
Now, another category of supplements they discuss is thermogenic fat loss aids.
Okay. Thermogenic meaning.
Thermogenic refers to the process of heat production in the body. So thermogenic supplements are designed to increase your metabolic rate, which essentially means you burn more calories throughout the day.
Okay, so it's like giving your metabolism a boost to help you burn fat.
Exactly. And they're particularly big advocates for ephedra.
Ephedra, I've heard of that. I know it's been banned in some countries.
That's right. There have been concerns about its safety, particularly its potential to increase blood pressure and heart rate.
Oh.
However, they believe that when used responsibly by healthy individuals, ephedra is one of the most effective thermogenic fat loss aids available.
So they're acknowledging the risks, but also saying
Right.
that there are potential benefits
When used appropriately.
when used appropriately. Okay, so how does ephedra actually work?
Well, they explain that ephedra works by stimulating the release of norepinephrine, which is a hormone and neurotransmitter that increases heart rate, blood pressure, and metabolic rate.
So it kind of puts your body into fat burning mode.
That's one way to think about it. Norepinephrine activates a protein called uncoupling protein in the mitochondria, which are the powerhouses of your cells. And this uncoupling protein essentially causes your mitochondria to burn more calories as heat, boosting your overall energy expenditure.
Wow, so it's working at a cellular level
It is.
to increase your
Right, so
metabolism.
it really is a potent thermogenic agent, but they do emphasize that it's not a magic bullet, and it should be used in conjunction with a healthy diet and exercise program.
So it's a tool to enhance your results, but it's not a substitute.
Exactly.
To what I'm doing.
They're big believers in taking a comprehensive approach to fitness, addressing both nutrition and training.
You know, as we've been going through these supplements, I've really noticed this theme of science-backed ingredients.
You're right. It's clear that they're not just throwing together random ingredients and making unsubstantiated claims. They have a real passion for research and development and ensuring that their products are backed by solid science.
Yeah, they really seem to be pushing the boundaries of sports nutrition.
They definitely take pride in being at the forefront of the industry and offering cutting-edge products to help athletes achieve their goals.
Yeah, and they're clearly passionate about this stuff. You know, they want to help people transform their physiques, reach their full potential.
Well, absolutely. They even talk about the positive feedback they receive from customers and how rewarding it is to be a part of their fitness journeys.
You know, it's one thing to create a product, but to see it actually making a difference
Right.
in people's lives. I mean, that's got to be incredibly fulfilling.
I can imagine. And it speaks to the quality and effectiveness of their products.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, you know, from the foundational principles to the specific supplements that can enhance your results. What are your overall thoughts on macrobolic nutrition and how they check?
Well, I think it's a really comprehensive and well thought out approach. They've taken the time to understand the science, behind building muscle and optimizing performance. And they've developed a system that addresses both nutrition and supplementation in a strategic and personalized way.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with how much they emphasize research and development. And using those science-backed ingredients, it's clear that they're not just jumping on the latest supplement trends. They're really trying to create products that deliver tangible results.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate that holistic perspective, considering not just muscle growth, but also overall health and well-being.
It's not just about building bigger muscles. It's about building a better, stronger, and more resilient.
Yeah, that well said. All right, well, I'm feeling pretty pumped up about all this. You ready to wrap things up?
Absolutely. Let's bring it all together.
Wow, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive into macrobolic nutrition, from the foundational principles to the specific supplements that could really boost your results. But now I'm thinking, what does all this mean for you listening right now? How can you take these insights and make them work for your own fitness goals and your life?
That's the real question, right? It's all about empowering yourself to understand the science behind how your body reacts to what you eat and how you train. And ultimately, taking charge of your own athletic journey. This deep dive's given you a pretty amazing toolkit for sculpting the body you want.
Yeah, and we started off by busting that myth that all calories are the same. Macrobolic nutrition says that it's strategic eating that really matters. It's all about that 4-5-3-5-20Z ratio. And we even learned those carbs that so many diets demonize, they're actually essential for intense workouts.
Right, and they help maximize muscle growth, too.
Exactly. And then there's insulin.
Insulin.
Yeah, so many people are afraid of it, but macrobolic nutrition teaches us how to manage it right, using that balanced macronutrient ratio and, of course, exercise. It's like harnessing insulin's power to actually build more muscle while keeping fat storage in check.
That's a great way to put it.
And then there's protein. It's the foundation for muscle, and we went deep on those 5 critical amino acids.
Especially glutamine.
Yeah, glutamine. Not only for muscle growth, but for immune function, too, and even how our brains work. And we talked about how getting a mix of protein sources throughout your day, the fast, medium, and slow digesting ones, is really the key.
Absolutely. And we even tackled all those myths about fat, remember? Unsaturated fats, those omega-3s, they can actually help with hormone production, recovery, and even losing fat.
It's mind-blowing how they debunk those common diet myths.
Right. It's all about understanding the science.
And then, of course, we jumped into the world of supplements. We talked about creatine, glutamine, those testosterone boosters, and even things like growth hormone enhancers, and joint support, too. Don't forget the meal replacements and thermogenics.
It's amazing how these supplements, when you use them right, can really work with macrobolic nutrition to boost your results.
And throughout this whole discussion, I've been so impressed with how much they focus on ingredients that are backed by real science. It's not just about chasing the latest fads. They're creating products that get results based on research.
You hit the nail on the head. It's clear they're not just throwing random ingredients together. They're digging deep into the science to understand how it all works. It's pretty inspiring, actually.
Absolutely. And I love that they look at the whole picture, not just building bigger muscles, but being healthier and stronger overall.
It's about becoming the best and most resilient version of yourself.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So to everyone listening, I want to challenge you. What's holding you back? What goals are you ready to tackle? Macrobolic Nutrition has given you the map, and now it's time to start your journey.
This deep dive has given you incredible knowledge. You've got insights into how to build a strong physique, how hormones work, how to fuel your body right, and even how to use supplements to your advantage. You have all the pieces.
You really do. It's not just about looking good. It's about feeling amazing and reaching your full potential.
That's what macrobolic nutrition is all about. And that's what we're all about here on the deep dive. We hope this episode has fired you up, given you new knowledge, and inspired you to take action.
Keep exploring, keep pushing yourself, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.
See you there.